FBI's efforts to monitor the Trump campaign actually originated months before the FBI authorized the counterintelligence investigation into so-called Russian election interference. This after, quote, foreign figures contacted Trump campaign advisors and provided the FBI with hearsay allegations of Trump-Russia collusion. According to John Solomon, these foreign figures, including some of the trusted intelligence sources and even some Hillary Clinton supporters. In other words, what this means is members of the deep state, that upper echelon that we talk about, Clinton sycophants, they were literally flooding the FBI with lies, unverified, uncorroborated, anti-Trump material. And there's more. Remember the lovebirds, Strzok and Page? John Solomon tonight has uncovered a series of new texts from these two anti-Trump FBI officials that show the Obama administration was likely involved in steering this investigation against the Trump campaign, including one text that took place as the FBI was opening their investigation into so-called Russian meddling, where Lisa Page writes, quote, "We're not going to withstand the pressure soon." And then Page and Strzok also expressing fears that Obama would, quote, hijack their investigation or leak details to the press. And in another text from Peter Strzok, he indicated that the Obama administration was very much involved in the FBI investigation, writing, quote, "The White House," meaning the Obama White House, "is running this." So what did Obama know? When did he know it? What did his inner circle know? When did they know it? It's now time to put the former president and his entire team under oath. Now, Sarah Carter, also tonight, another new report and bombshell detailing the possible connection between an international spying alliance called the Five Eyes. You can't put this in a novel. And the rampant surveillance of the Trump campaign. It's even bigger than we thought. After all, as Solomon and Carter both reported, the investigation into Trump-Russia collusion, remember, it originated abroad in London. Now, the United Kingdom is a key member of this Five Eyes alliance. And despite all of this, you got the lunatic, former communist, former CIA director under Obama, John Brennan, now calling President Trump paranoid for expressing concerns over deep state spying. We already know it's true. How could it be paranoid? Sounds like he's very defensive. Take a look.
I think Mr. Trump has demonstrated a paranoia and insecurity, as well as a real concern about the investigation that is underway. Certainly his tweets do not seem like they're coming from a person of innocence and confidence. Mr. Trump is going to promote his narrative. He certainly is going to continue to try to discredit the FBI and the CIA and others. But I think, make no mistake about it, the American justice system, I think, is going to prevail in this endeavor to get to the bottom of who might have been collaborating and working with foreign actors to try to undermine the integrity of the election.
All right, remember, this is the same John Brennan who went on national TV a few months ago and told the world that Donald Trump should be very, very worried. Sounds like a deep state threat. Take a listen.
I think he's afraid of the president of Russia.
Why?
Well, I think one can speculate as to why. That the Russians may have something on him personally that they could always roll out and make his life more difficult. Clearly, I think it's important for us to be able to improve relations with Russia. But the fact that he has had this fawning attitude toward Mr. Putin has not said anything negative about him. I think continues to say to me that he does have something to fear.
All right, putting John Brennan's blind contempt and hatred for President Trump aside, we have even more revelations to bring you showing that the deep state is starting to crack. According to a new report, the Wall Street Journal's Kim Strassel, there are now serious issues with the FBI's, quote, Papadopoulos, who nobody ever heard of, and that narrative after the alleged informant in the case publicly contradicted the FBI's own claims that the one-time low-level Trump advisor discussed the hacked Democratic emails. And remember, the now infamous 2016 Trump Tower meeting between Donald Trump Jr., a Russian lawyer, a Russian-American lobbyist, and a few others. Oh, we have new information, recently unearthed a transcript from a 2017 Senate hearing that the Russian-American lobbyist admitted to personally knowing Hillary Clinton and some of the people who worked in her campaign. So what was someone who knew Hillary Clinton doing in that meeting? Is the media going to report on that? It's unbelievable. It gets more insane every day. We'll have more on this also later in the show. Also tonight, let's turn to the Deputy Attorney General Rod Rosenstein, you know, the guy that said Comey should be fired, the guy that signed the last FISA warrant based on the phony dossier that Clinton bought and paid for. She used a foreign agent to put together, funneling money through a law firm, then to GPS, then to the foreign agent, Russian lies, Russian government lies to manipulate you, the American people. Well, last night we showed you how Rosenstein's clear conflicts of interest surrounding this ongoing Russia probe, specifically, you know, his key role in firing Comey. He's witness A in that whole investigation, and he's the one that appointed Mueller. Now, finally, people in D.C. are getting what we have been telling you. There are growing calls tonight for Rod Rosenstein to recuse himself. That includes Senator Lindsey Graham. Welcome aboard, Senator. He is asking three very important questions. Quote, do you consider yourself a potential witness in the Mueller investigation regarding the firing of Director Comey by President Trump? If not, why not? He recommended it. Yeah, he's a witness. And if so, by the way, you should recuse yourself from further interactions with oversight of the Mueller investigation. Thankfully, finally, someone saying what we have been saying and calling for over and over for months. The Deputy Attorney General, Rod Rosenstein, it's time for you to answer those questions. We know the answers, and then recuse yourself and get out of the way, because you're the most conflicted person in all of this, not the Attorney General, Jeff Sessions. And by the way, great news for me tonight. Pay close attention. Remember when Senator Chuck Schumer said that you better not mess with the intel community because they're going to get you 6 ways to Sunday? This is great news for me. Best-selling author Jerome Corsi. He's the author of this book. It's out now in bookstores, on Amazon.com, BarnesandNoble.com. It's called Killing the Deep State. You might remember him. He was back. Remember the group against John Kerry, Vietnam Vets for Truth? He was one of them. He's saying that yours truly, that I, Sean Hannity, am the next target of the deep state. Wow, isn't it so great to know that these corrupt officials with their backs against the wall, that are desperate people do desperate things, the people that have the most powerful tools of intelligence, they're now going after me. Okay, really? So sadly, after all we have learned, you know, now we have Jerome Corsi's prediction. It doesn't surprise me. Isn't that sad? Are we the United States of America, or are we going to be the former Soviet Union, or are we going to be Venezuela? I promise you this one thing. I'm never stopping, ever. Here to help break down this damning new report is the Hill's John Solomon. John, good to see you, sir. Quick question. You think Corsi could be right?
I don't know. I hope not. I hope that people stay within the law at all times, right? You don't want to see freelancing or
retribution. Haven't you been told by people that certain things were happening to you?
There have been times where people have raised questions about our reporters like myself being surveilled, and of course in the past the FBI did illegally intercept my mail 10 years ago. So there's a public record of the FBI apologizing to me for taking my mail after I broke all the stories about what the FBI knew before 9/11.
Yeah, that's pretty scary. And again, if that's the case, if people that are trying to get to the truth and exposing corruption then become targets of the deep state and those that have these tools of intelligence, you could say goodbye to the Constitution because it doesn't exist.
And let's hope that's not the case.
And by the way, you might have been unmasked, right?
Don't know. I don't have any evidence of it, and I try to stay focused on what I can afford. Yeah.
Yeah. All right. London bridges falling down. Curious origins of FBI's Trump-Russia probe. This is huge, including the Newsstruck page memos that you've discovered. Let's talk about it all.
Yeah, no, it's a great question. Whenever something's going on in Washington and people tell you there's no political pressure, I just don't believe it. There's always political pressure in Washington when there's something as big as a hot football like the Russia election investigation. And these text messages are really the first to really get at the idea that FBI agents felt political pressure. They were worried that they used an expletive to describe their brethren at the Obama Justice Department might be leaking. And probably the most seminal and most important text message that has raised a lot of concern with the people I talked to is a declaration after a meeting at the FBI on August 5th that the Obama White House, quote, is running this thing. And we don't know what that means yet, except that you can interpret that the FBI agents had some fear that the White House was somehow going to become involved in the Russia case. And that's the first word that we've seen in a documentary sense that suggests that.
John, John, what you're saying here, and if we just look at the face of the struck page text here, they're pinning this whole thing on the Obama White House, that the Obama White House is running it. Now,
They
we
certainly
still
have that fear. Yeah.
What's that?
They have that fear. They feared at that moment that this was about to be politically hijacked, either by the CIA, the Justice Department, or the White House run by Barack Obama.
That's part of it, but don't they at one point say that it's being run? And my interpretation is they're saying it is being run there.
Somebody said in a meeting that they went to that the White House is now running this. That's right. That's what they came back and said in that text message.
All right, so I guess at this particular point, we go back to a big problem that we have, and that is the Department of Justice, Rod Rosenstein in particular, and others, they have been obstructing, they have been stonewalling. We have separation of powers, co-equal branches of government. We have a constitutional role for Congress, which is oversight. And guess what? They're preventing them from doing their job, knowing what you know. If we get that information, how devastating is it for them?
Well, there's a very important person quoted in my latest column, and that is the former head of intelligence for the FBI, ironically under Robert Mueller, who says that from what he has seen and the stuff I talked to him about and what he's seen on his own, that Congress has legitimate, serious questions that should be answered by the Justice Department. This evidence that we have now, these new emails showing that the people who became the informers and the informants, college professors and ambassadors and opposition researchers for Hillary Clinton, were making their contacts with the Trump administration long before there was a predicated investigation. The rule says no source activity until you have a predicated investigation. These emails suggest that there was some source activity, some targeting going on. And if Bob Mueller's former intelligence chief said this raises questions, I think we should listen to him.
John Solomon, thank you. Huge breaking news tonight, and we're going to stay on this story. We'll get back to it next week, I promise. We will follow the bouncing ball here, something the media can't do. All right, we have more breaking news tonight. Her brand new column, her brand new report, investigative reporter, Fox News contributor Sarah Carter. Sarah, let's get into yours. And it's very clear. It's, you know, this is a big story also. And you're also corroborating and confirming a lot of John's story.
Absolutely. I mean, I think what we see before the FBI actually opened its official investigation, it was a counterintelligence investigation, which means they were gathering as much information as possible from everywhere. And they could. They actually, and I'm not talking about just the Bureau, I'm talking about other intelligence agencies, foreign intelligence, the Great Britain, Germany, Estonia, Poland. Now, we're a member of the Five Eyes, and that doesn't include Germany, Estonia,
Explain the Five
Poland.
Eyes.
Okay, that's Australia, New Zealand, Canada, the United States, and Great Britain. And we share information with one another. That means if we have information that's pertinent to the U.S., we share it. Remember with Alexander Downer, the ambassador who shared the information with the United States on his conversation with
By the way,
Papadopoulos.
we got to remind people, Downer donated $25 million to the Clinton Foundation, okay?
Absolutely, absolutely.
And John, and remember, before the FBI interviewed him, the State Department had to get involved. That would mean John Kerry knows about this too, and that goes back to John's report. It goes to the White House, now it goes also to the Secretary of State's office.
Well, we have to ask ourselves, Sean, what information are we trading back and forth? And this also would mean that Brennan, who was head of the CIA, DNI Clapper, Director of National Intelligence, would be well aware of this because this is a counterintelligence investigation involving something very specific, involving the Trump campaign members. And that's very important. That doesn't mean that this would just be at a lower level. This would be at a higher level, a principal level, which means that Brennan was very well aware of what was going on. And what I'd like to know is, did the British share the information with us first on some of these players, or did we ask for specific information?
This is important.
How was the exchange?
Yeah, and this is important because all these foreign players are involved. The timeline is way off than the story, that the narrative that they've been saying. That means people have been lying dramatically here. And then we got an IG report coming out, and I'm told as many as 28 people that have knowledge of the Clinton email server scandal, 28 of them, FBI people, want to be subpoenaed so they can tell the story about corruption at the highest levels of the Bureau that they love.
Absolutely. There's a lot of FBI agents that want to come out and speak. A lot of them are current agents, which makes it very difficult for them. So they need to be subpoenaed. So these are things that Congress needs to act on, Congress needs to do so that they can come out and tell their stories.
Unbelievable reporting. Thank you, Sarah Carter. You just keep breaking story after story. We're going to stay on this. This is getting interesting. When we come back, we'll get legal analysis. Greg Jarrett, David Limbaugh on this big breaking news night, and the Korean summit is on, and great economic news. All right, joining us now with more reaction to tonight's opening monologue, we have attorney David Limbaugh. Full disclosure, even though I said that 1,000 times, David has done all of my contracts on radio and TV. Also, the author of the soon-to-be #1 New York Times bestseller, The Russian Hoax, The Illicit Scheme to Clear Hillary Clinton, Frame Donald Trump, Fox News legal analyst Greg Jarrett. Let me begin with you, Greg. And when I hear John Solomon say what he just said in the last segment, and Sarah Carter, what she is reporting tonight, the idea that we now have new text messages, you're aware of it, you had it in your hands last night as I did, we weren't fully able to go full bore, that in fact this goes to the Obama White House, that they're running the operation, what should happen?
Well, look, it's very obvious that the CIA Director, John Brennan, James Clapper, the DNI, and the Obama White House, and likely the President himself, were all in on this. Brennan was the instigator of the hoax. He grabbed a hold of the fictitious anti-Trump dossier with his teeth, and he ran with it, propagating it on Capitol Hill, trying to damage candidate Trump, and then thereafter, trying to destroy his presidency. And whenever he shows up on television, as he did yesterday, bashing Trump, he only reinforces the notion that he was the guy with the most to gain. He wanted to perpetuate his own power.
Communist?
Pardon me?
Oh,
yeah.
All right. How did he become the CIA director of the president? Why do I think a communist, a CIA director is a little dangerous? Let me go to this whole issue. The whole narrative, David Limbaugh, was about Papadopoulos and Downer getting drunk together, as Greg said the first time, four-way hearsay. And we now know Downer they had to thread a needle. The Kerry State Department's involved, so that means, again, the timing is off, the timeline is off. The whole story is crumbling. It began a lot earlier, but Downer's also a guy that donated $25 million to the Clinton Foundation. So we got some huge conflicts again here.
Yes, and there's a suspicious amount of Clinton involvement in all this supposedly neutral FBI investigation. Not only was Downer, had he donated $25 million to the Clinton Foundation, this Russian lobbyist in the Trump Tower meeting had Clinton ties. And back to your point about the Obama involvement, why is it so hard to believe about Obama, who was willing to weaponize and politicize the IRS and EPA, that he would do so to the DOJ and FBI? Strzok and Page, we now know from these texts, feared Obama wanted to hijack the campaign. We know from the investigation. We know from previous texts that he wanted to know everything. They were worried about him being soft on Russia, which is very ironic through all this. And we now have FBI agents, according to Sarah Carter, who want to come forward and tell on the record some of the improprieties. There is no way, and I think...
Yeah. Go ahead, finish. Yeah. Yes, sir.
I don't think there's any way that Trey Gowdy is right about this. If he were right about this, and I have a lot of respect for him, that there wouldn't have been such an effort to protect Hillary Clinton. If it was just neutral spies, they would have issued a protective briefing to Donald Trump. And we would have known a lot more about it.
Exactly. All they had to do is go to Trump. This is what makes it all so sinister, and it's starting early. Their timeline is off, Greg. They changed the rules, the Obama administration. If we remember, they're sharing this intel with agencies, 16 or 17 of them, which they've never done before, and the whole Papadopoulos, issue is just blown out of the water.
Yeah, the FBI, with the help of a complicit New York Times, perpetuated this myth that it was Papadopoulos. That's an outright lie. They're trying to conceal the truth.
Yeah.
Why did they lie about...
Yeah. Okay. That's where it did.
Why did they lie about Papadopoulos having emails when all he said was he heard they had dirt on him? Why all these suspicious lies if they weren't trying to set up Trump?
It's all falling apart. These stories are blockbuster. We'll have a lot more coming up. All right. Also, we got the North Korea summit on. Great news.